Doctor Who is a show I was a huge fan of. Was a huge fan of. But despite the constant fuck-ups that the show has been producing as of lately, no amount of retconning can completely remove what people still love about the show. It would have to be another great purging of Doctor Who episodes in order to do that. But because the internet exists, that would be pretty impossible to do. I discovered the show through a video made by Screen Junkies back before the 50th anniversary, so by the time the anniversary special was released, I had watched all the modern series at this point, and closing 2 eras of a show well watched. While preparations for the 12th incarnation were developing, I went back in time to explore the Doctor's origins and what has developed throughout 50 years. And not only have I gathered a great respect for the show, it's rather hard to put a finger on it, but there's something about the classic show that seems to have grabbed me in a stronger way that the modern series never could. And even though it's cheap and cheesy at times, it's left with only 2 aspects to engage the viewer. That being powerful storytelling and good old British comedy. While the show has been loved, it's also always been hated by many people outside of it who just don't understand the show. In the 60s, it was a ludicrous child stories that asked too much of the producers. In the 70s, it was protesters screaming about how the show was dangerous and warping the minds of children.
You'll have to talk, a little more English and a little less Australian, and I'm not going to hear what you're saying.
In the 80s, it was the head of the BBC being disgusted by how anyone could love such a fake-looking sci-fi show in comparison to shows like Star Trek or Battlestar Galactica.
I cancelled the show. I thought it was rubbish. I actually hate sci-fi.
The show has had to adapt to stay alive. Doctor Who has always been a continually changing show since its inception. Starting off as a children's educational show, showing off the wonders of history and science that can still surprise new viewers to this day, to a venture into the great unknown, fighting off great evil, to a James Bond-ish action show, and a secret organization protecting the Earth from the universe, to a childish interpretation of the universe actually being the logical answer, to a high production sci-fi and comedy to entertain the new viewers arriving in, to whatever the fuck this is, to a mystery of our characters' origins and past. The show has even had its own eras in the modern era. The show has been rebirthed into a mystery not of the Doctor himself, but what has happened when he is gone, and now about the revamped Doctor trying to rediscover what it means to be a Doctor again, as if he just left Gallifrey. There are even eras within eras that are explored with spin-offs, books, audios, dramas, comics, video games, even fan-made magazine articles. There is so much to unpack from all of this, but what truly connects everyone to the show is the sense of fellowship. The show has been such a powerful show full of heart, humor, and companionship that it can even change the hearts and minds of people who start on the show.
He really believed in the Doctor. He really loved the part. He thought it was important. He liked the idea that he was appealing to children and that they found that character interesting.
He loved the programme, he loved the concept, he loved his part, and he wanted it to be as perfect as it possibly could be.
Come along, we've got a lot to do. This is a very dangerous business.
I loved doing Doctor Who because it was life to me. It's an amazing thing to be in something where that was more important. My real life was really rather drab. It would get near 5 o'clock. I used to dread the end of rehearsal, because then real life would impinge on me, When I was in Doctor Who, in full flight, making silly suggestions and pulling funny faces to make the other actors laugh, then I was happy, But then, of course, would come 5 o'clock, and like everyone, at 5 o'clock when they're leaving work, another reality impinges, real life. I wasn't very good at that.
Some actors have had lifelong dedication to preserving, revisiting, and continuing the show. Some want another crack at the whip they never got. The show has been such a huge inspiration to many people, including myself, that we can never really say we hate the show. Even with the period it is in right now, I wouldn't be surprised that there are people that do like the show in its present time. And that's fine. There are many eras of Doctor Who that everybody enjoys better than the others. But there feels like there's a huge lack of understanding in the show now that was lost from the classic series, even from the revival era. There is this kind of vision that the Doctor is this great figure that acts like some sort of space Jesus, who goes around helping people and destroying evil. And while that does describe the Doctor to a degree, people tend to forget that he's just a guy with a box who ventures the universe. He just drops himself off in random places, but because of his history, evil tends to follow him, seeking to destroy him so that they can wreak havoc on the worlds that they seek. He's just an unlucky guy who can't bring himself to look away from tragedy, and will fight the corners of the universe that plot to infringe on good. The Doctor has always been, from his inception, to be a curious and mysterious character, which is why retconning Doctor Who is never really looked at as a positive thing to do. The Doctor is a fleshed out character, but he is also a mysterious being who only the Time Lords understand. Explanations have never been limited, but it makes the idea of the Doctor all more engaging. To try and explain everything in one episode is not only disrespectful to the show and its fans, but also to every single actor who has played the role. Not only a disrespect, but it removes a lot of the interests that people had with Doctor Who. Because who is really going to care about his mystery if everybody knows about it? He would then become too transparent. When writing for a character such as the Doctor, one needs to know what they need to tell about him and what they should just leave to mystery. If anyone is watching this and is curious as to what episode of Doctor Who people should start with first, I would follow the advice of Screen Junkies and recommend Blink as a first episode. It is not only a great written piece of fiction, but it also introduces a scary villain and lets the audience see the Doctor in a limited light. The lack of the Doctor makes it simple for the audience to grasp onto the show and not the Doctor, because it is possible that this Doctor might not be a favorite. For anyone, including modern Doctor Who fans who have cold feet with watching the classic series, I'm actually making a new video series for classic Doctor Who stories to watch as an intro to the best that classic Who has to offer. The writing may be great, but there are also some goofy things that do happen to remind you that you are watching a classic story. Then again, modern Who has the same kind of weird stuff from time to time. So why am I making this video now instead of my usual old VHS reviews that take about a year to make? Doctor Who is something I understand very well, and I can better articulate in a conversation. So I'm going to be making some reviews of Doctor Who episodes in chronological order. I'm going to start with the very first episode of the show and work my way up to the Wasteland years, to the revised series, and to modern Who as it stands today. And hey, maybe I'll learn something new along the way. That said, here's my venture in review for Doctor Who.